Fall reading is all about the vibes. Whether you want spooky or cozy or just something fantastical, it is all about matching the mood that you want for this season. So I have got some prompts, different moods in a hat that I'm gonna draw out for you and give you some book recommendations. Hi guys, it's Amy and welcome to the channel, or welcome back. I hope that you're doing well. Let me know how you're doing in the comments. Today, as I have said, we're going to be pulling prompts out of a hat and I'm going to give you book recommendations based on the mood that is written out on these little strips of paper. I literally wrote like 25 of these and cut them out and wrote different prompts, and I will try to give you a book recommendation based on those prompts. So I'm really excited about this. I have been doing kind of a mood reader book recommendation thing on my TikTok and Instagram. I've done a little bit on YouTube as well, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to make it into a full-on video. So today I have a couple of books displayed that are some fall recommendations that I might mention today. My husband got a 3D printer, and it was like a gift, like anniversary gift for his like work. And he made these like cool little attachments that like fit onto your shelf and you can display different books. And I thought that was kind of cool, but hopefully I don't like knock them over as we're doing this. But as we're getting into the video, into these recommendations, let me know what your favorite read of fall has been. Let me know if you've read any of the ones that I'm displaying. All right, I am shuffling a little bit, not looking, and here we go. Here's our first prompt. Let's see what it is. You are craving found family, homey magic, and little moments of joy. Okay, I think that sounds cozy to me, and what comes to mind is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, which has like kind of a librarian, but also like some interesting magic, some like magical plant like creatures. And it definitely has like kind of this homey small town vibe. There's like a jam shop. There's a lot of like kind of cozy hominess going on in it. Little moments of joy, definitely with like found family. You're going to have that in this book. And then another one would definitely be The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sengu Mandana. And I feel like I recommend that book a lot. I feel like you see it all over the place, but it's definitely for good reason. It definitely has the found family, and it's mostly taking place at a home. As well as the spell shop. So it's like magic around the home and just kind of cozy vibes, and definitely the little moments of joy, like the prompt said. So definitely would recommend those two books for that vibe. I'm sorry, that mood. I need to say mood. I say vibe a lot, but we're talking about moods. All right, next prompt. I'm not looking. You are in your morally gray scholar area, brooding, brilliant, but a bit unhinged. Okay. I think for that, I would recommend the Scholomance trilogy. I actually have it somewhere here on my shelf, a couple of the books, but that is by Naomi Novik. You may know the first book, A Deadly Education. It is definitely a chaotic, kind of an unhinged, as it said, magic school, and our main character is definitely like kind of brooding. One of the other main characters is a bit brooding, but it's a chaotic magic school that doesn't have professors. The school kind of runs on magic and kind of just like creates a curriculum for you, but there's monsters trying to get inside of the school and attack the children, and you pretty much are locked in there for like 4 years. You cannot leave once you get into the school. It is crazy. It is unhinged. It definitely is funny at times, but it definitely has like kind of this darker atmosphere because of the stakes, and definitely some brooding characters. So I think that would be a really good one for that. Number 3, not looking. You want to read something that feels like cinnamon and candlelight. That is perfect for fall. And I'm thinking of just like a fall, like cinnamon scented kind of candle. definitely the cover of the book, but the book as far as like its mood. An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. It kind of feels like a YA version of Agatar, but like I think a better version. It is, a girl who gets entangled with a Fey prince, and they're having to go around the realms. And you do experience like different seasons in the book with like the different seasonal courts, but it still feels like fall to me for some reason. It just is like really cozy. There's like different feasts and things like that. So there's like food descriptions. It's very romantic and sweet. It does kind of have like the fae that have like a possibly like dark edge to them, some of them. So there is some stakes in there as well. And yeah, I think that would be a good one for that. I think something cozy like The Hobbit to me is a cozy read. It's just like nostalgic. And if you have read The Hobbit or you don't want to maybe get into like a thicker book like The Hobbit, I would recommend Sword and Thistle by S.L. Rowland. It's like a quest. There's a little bit of magic in there, but it's a like cozy quest that definitely makes me think of like reading by candlelight, and you can smell the cinnamon candle or smell like the cinnamon buns baking or whatever. It definitely has that vibe to it. I keep saying vibe, mood, Amy, mood. Okay, going to number 4. You want to escape in a classic Gothic story with forbidden desires. I have definitely been in my classic Gothic literature era, so I do have a couple of things that come to mind for this. Definitely the picture of Dorian Gray, someone who is wanting to stay youthful no matter the consequences, and just kind of experiencing all the pleasures of life. And yeah, that I definitely think that has like forbidden desires in it. And then I would think Dracula as well, the original Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. It is not quite as romanticized, I think, as some modern versions of the story, but this idea of like, wanting to have power like Dracula, or it's definitely a depiction of like purity and kind of putting fear into people about like staying pure, especially women staying pure. And you can have a whole like philosophical debate about that, but there's definitely this like, it's the bloodlust, but it's also the like trances and desire to follow this powerful being, these women being enthralled. And so it's like these forbidden things, these desires, but it's like evil at the same time. It definitely has like this kind of morality discussion that's, of course, antiquated because of the time period that it was originally written in. But I definitely think if you're wanting those Gothic vibes, you definitely want to read Picture of Dorian Gray or Dracula to get the forbidden desire sort of thing. Our next mood read, you want small town magic, a cozy romance, and maybe a little spell gone wrong, okay? What comes to mind for that would definitely be Hex Appeal that I read recently. That definitely had like the vibe of the show Charmed. I have actually been watching that recently and really loving the nostalgia of it. I think the X-Hex series, there's X-Hex and the Kiss Curse that take place kind of in fall around Halloween. And those definitely have like those kind of shenanigans. It's like magic and romance, spells gone wrong for sure, shenanigans. They're funny. I think they're a really good time. It's like Halloween, but like a cozy version of it with some romance in there. I wish I could get you guys to like put your hand in and pick one out for me, but let's pick another one. Oh, okay. You want to read something that makes you feel like you are studying forbidden texts by candlelight. Okay, and you know what? The books that actually come to mind are right beside me, so I'm literally going to pull them from my displays. I promise I didn't plan that. First up is Blood Over Brighthaven. This is definitely like dark academia, that kind of mooding and brooding sort of thing, but it has some really great social and political commentary in here. But definitely reading forbidden texts and learning secrets and things like that, definitely get that in this book. And my other recommendation would be to my left, and that is Babel, which I read recently, and you can go check out my reading vlog of that. But this definitely has that same mood as well. I'm correcting myself. And this is dealing with like language and colonialism. Definitely has a lot of social and political commentary as well. But I think it dealing with language definitely emphasizes more like the forbidden texts and reading by candlelight. So definitely get the mood of that from these two books. Oh, I dropped one. You want a unique vampire story that is still dark and brooding. Okay, so getting away from the typical like Dracula story, what comes to mind is Certain Dark Things by Silvia Moreno Garcia. If you want just good writing that really fits like the spooky season, her books are going to be it for you. And Certain Dark Things, it takes place in Mexico City. So we're kind of like in this urban sort of fantasy. It sort of has this like neo-noir feel to it. And you're kind of following like the criminal underbelly of the city, but there are vampires. And they are not your typical vampires, but they still have kind of this dark and brooding element to them. And it's just a really like cool story. It's kind of short. I honestly think it could have been longer, but if you want something that just has like a cool vibe to it, kind of like dark and rainy nights out on the streets in a big city and having like some Mexican folklore in there, I think it's the perfect mood for a unique vampire story. I'm looking at the ones that we've drawn. So this is going to be number 8. Yes, we're drawing number 8. You want a magical story the whole family can enjoy. So I know I've had like, okay, spooky and vampires and things like that, but I do want to have like a variety. So I think this is a good prompt for that. I think a book that really feels like cozy and fall to me, but still has like adventure that I think the family will like, is Redwall, which is a classic. And it's like animals, like woodland creatures that run this sort of like abbey, like fortress, and they're having to fight an evil rat. And it's just really heartwarming and cute, but it does have some stakes to it, but you're dealing with like woodland creatures, so I feel like it kind of like tones it down a little bit, but it does, you know, it does get a little bit violent. But it's nothing like extreme or anything like that. But they're definitely like going to battle against each other, but it just has this great adventure to it and great like friendships in it. And it has amazing like food descriptions in it. It was originally written for blind children. And so the descriptions in it are really made to create this sort of mental image. And I think it's just so fantastic. I think it's great for a lot of ages. So definitely would recommend that one. And another one that comes to mind would be Amari and the Night Brothers. I believe that is by B.B. Alston. Let me double check. So yes, that is by B.B. Alston. And this is a series. I don't know how many books are going to be in the series, but there are currently 4 right now. I have only read the first book, but I really enjoyed the first book. I definitely would like to continue with the series. But it is like magic school, but kind of a more like modern take, in my opinion. A really cool take on it, but it also has some really important discussions on like race and systemic oppression that is put into a story that is great for a lot of different ages. So I think it's a really great way to integrate magic and stories and fun, but also being able to have important conversations as well. So I think that's a win. I think that's great. So fitting the mood of a magical story that the whole family can enjoy. Number 9. Let's see. Fall equals high fantasy for you, and you need a hearty fantasy to sink your teeth into. Okay. Of course, I love high fantasy, and I think what comes to mind that would fit for fall, the Bloodsworn Saga, the Farseer trilogy, and the Rook and Rose trilogy. I'll put a stipulation with that one, but I'll get to that in a second. The Bloodsworn Saga, it's Vikings, it's battles, but it's also like character studies and emotional stories at the same time. I think it's a really great high fantasy if you want kind of the balance of battles, but also, you know, character individual stories. Farseer trilogy, definitely character study, but it's like kind of dark medieval castles and a lot of political intrigue. It definitely, I think, fits perfectly for fall. And then with the Rook and Rose trilogy, I am reading the third book currently. It is definitely the weakest book so far, but it still has a lot of good elements to it. I plan to do a review of that once I finish, but the first two books are incredible. They are fantastic. But just know if you want to get to the end of the story, like the third book is a little bit of a letdown, but I am crossing my fingers that it's going to be worth it finishing to get the full story. There is some good stuff in there. I'm not going to deny that, but it definitely is like the weaker of the trilogy. So you hate to end a whole like fantasy journey with that, but I just want to put that stipulation out there. So definitely would recommend those three for your high fantasy fall mood reading. What do we have next? What do we have next? You want a cozy mystery to curl up on the couch with and a hot drink in hand. Okay. Hot drink in hand. There is a cozy mystery series. I believe it's called the Coffee House Mystery Series. But the one that I read, Honey Roasted, it's further on in the series, but it's literally about this woman who owns a coffee shop in New York. And it just has like really great vibes to it. But I think if you're in the mood for something that literally has like hot drinks in it, that would probably be a good book, good series to get into, especially if you like coffee. But I like it because it's cozy mystery, but it's happening in New York. It's not like the typical like small town cozy mystery. And then the one that I read recently, In the Company of Witches, a lot of people are recommending, and for very good reason. And it's perfect for fall because it has witches, of course, but it's like small town cozy vibes. It's funny, but it's also like heartwarming and then really like heartfelt at times. You're dealing with some grief and things like that, but it was just a really good story. Like it wasn't just, you know, okay, it's cozy mystery, so I kind of have to accept some cheesiness. I think there's a cheese factor with that genre, and I like cozy mysteries, but I haven't found many that I really have loved, and I really did love In the Company of Witches. There's 2 books in the series. Hopefully the author will continue, but I've heard that they might not. But definitely would recommend those for cozy mystery, curl up on the couch with a hot drink. And did you notice my scarf? I never get to wear this, but I thought it would be good to wear, especially for our fall videos. Let's get another one. You know, this one kind of got crinkled. Okay. You want dark magic and building tension to the ultimately scary climax. Okay. So full on scary. I'm not like into huge like horror, full on scary stuff. I like, you know, kind of creepy vibes. I would recommend definitely The Bewitching by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Definitely has where it's like, it was saying the ultimate scary climax. It's like you see the bad from a mile away. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. You can't quite look away, and you know, you're kind of on the train track and it's still going and you can't get off. And you just kind of have to experience it. There's a book that I read a few years ago, The Slade House by David Mitchell. I didn't love it, but I know that other people probably will. It is definitely a scary, spooky house with really weird characters. It's essentially like people go into the house and they are never seen again. It's also kind of a hidden house at the same time. There is a lot of like mystery and lore surrounding this house. It takes place in England. It can be a complicated story. It was definitely not what I expected, but if you like the idea of something that gets a little, well, a lot metaphysical as far as magic goes, like just kind of weird, dark magic and creepy characters in a creepy house that is a little bit trippy, I would definitely recommend that one. It was definitely an adventure, but I think it definitely fits the vibe of like building tension, and it is scary. It is a bit scary. So definitely would recommend those two for dark magic, building tension, and ultimately a scary end. Okay, that was number 11. So this is number 12. You want something gothic, grotesque, and dripping with decay and beauty. Okay. Again, I'm gonna have to go with the Queen of Spooky, Silvia Moreno Garcia, and her book Mexican Gothic. That definitely has the grotesque and decay. Of course, Mexican Gothic, it has a very gothic vibe. It is in Mexico, as most of her books take place, and it is a creepy house with a creepier family, but there's kind of this like weird thing with mushrooms. And it still has kind of this really interesting historical feel to it. It does kind of have like this beauty with like the kind of dark and spooky sort of gothic manner that this story is taking place in. You're like in the countryside in Mexico, and it definitely has some like racial tension in the story, and it's just really good. It is definitely creepy, but the grotesque, the dripping with decay, it, yeah, definitely has that. And then I think one that I read recently, What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher, that it has mushrooms again. So if you like the idea of like weird, creepy mushroom magic, I would read either of these. But it is actually a novella and a retelling of Edgar Allan Poe's The Fall of the House of Usher, but with a mushroom twist. So we've got like creepy gothic houses, creepy characters, gross mushroom magic. So I would definitely recommend those for that mood. All right, what do we got now? What do we got next? Let's see. You want something witchy but comforting, like brewing tea while rain falls and your pet familiar naps beside you. I love that mood. That's so cozy. What comes to mind is a book called A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney, and it does not get enough love, but it is like the perfect cozy witchy fall book. It literally takes place around Halloween. It is about a kind of like plant witch, a healer who kind of lives on the outskirts of her town, but she is like kind of a healer for her coven. It's happening around Halloween, and it's a significant birthday for her where she gets to decide whether she keeps her powers or not, if I'm remembering correctly. And different like secrets about her town and coven kind of come to light, and some dark magic is threatening on kind of the edges of the story, and definitely comes to a pinnacle point. And it just has, it's cozy but still has some stakes to it. There's a little bit of romance in there as well, but it just has like this great witchy vibe to it. It has like fall festivals and like a small town that really is into Halloween, that kind of mood. And yeah, it just is the perfect like fall witchy mood. So definitely A Dark and Secret Magic by Wallace Kinney. Okay, I just counted what I've been dropping here on the floor, and that was number 13. So I'm not suspicious, maybe you are, so let's move past number 13. Let's get our next recommendation. You want a cozy story where love and kindness are the real magic. Okay, something sweet and cozy. The Girl Who Drank the Moon. It has a little bit of a dark edge to it, but it's a middle grade book, so it doesn't get too intense, but it is definitely about like love and found family and acceptance. There's a little bit of like political intrigue in there as well, but it is just a really beautiful story. The love and kindness is definitely a big element to that. And then I would recommend the Tea Dragon series. This is the first of the series, the Tea Dragon Society. This is a graphic novel series, and I wanted to just show you because the art is just so cute. We've got some different tea dragons. How cute is that? But this definitely is love and kindness and acceptance. They're just really beautifully illustrated and beautiful stories. I think I'm 34 years old and I really like this. Obviously, I have a copy of it and I don't have any children. So I think that these are just absolutely beautiful and I think anyone can appreciate. So if you want something really cozy that's all about love, kindness, definitely would recommend this or The Girl Who Drank the Moon. Oh, okay. Undead characters in a fun and chaotic story. I don't remember these prompts, but that's definitely an interesting one. Undead, I've got it here. I try not to pull too many books just because it's me turning from the camera, but The Dead Cattail Assassins is literally about undead assassins. It is very short. This is by P. DeJelly Clark. His writing is very unique and it's like kind of dark humor, sort of dark humor, but this is such a unique story. It is kind of funny. It definitely is a bit unhinged. So it's fun, it's chaotic, like the prompt is saying. I definitely would recommend this. It's got a bit of a mystery to it. There's some really interesting magic and some gods in there as well. So yes, definitely a unique one with undead characters. I'm having a lot of fun with this, just being able to pull things and kind of give you what comes to mind. And with having like a couple of weeks left in October, some kind of what I would consider fall time in November. I know some people are like automatically Christmas, but I'm not in a rush. But I think there's still enough time to get some of these fall recommendations in. And I think you can read these anytime, but I definitely have fun doing like the fall recommendations with you guys. So, okay. You want a horror story that makes you think, something haunting, tragic, and poetic. One that I read recently, I think Frankenstein really fits the bill for that specific mood. It is haunting, it's tragic, but it is poetic with the way that the characters kind of dialogue with each other and the way that they process the world, especially the monster in the Frankenstein story. And it's very different from like film depictions. I think I'm really excited to see the I always have a hard time saying his name, Guillermo del Toro's version of Frankenstein that's coming out soon. I think it's supposed to be a closer kind of adaptation to the story, but it definitely was making me think. It definitely was making me think about humanity, and it definitely makes you think about who is the real villain of the story. And yeah, there's just a lot of really interesting questions that come up when reading Frankenstein. And I think there's a lot of study that you can do into it. Of course, it's studied at school and all of that. So there's definitely a lot of meat to get from that. And it's a classic for a reason. So yeah, definitely would fit that mood, Frankenstein. Only got a few left. What are we gonna get? You were craving spooky shadows, creaking floorboards, and unsettling secrets in old houses. I feel like I've kind of done some of the haunted house stuff. You know what? Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. It has a spooky vibe to it, kind of the shadows, the creaking floorboards. But in this house, there are definitely secrets, but it's the people really keeping the secrets, not necessarily the house. So I it was definitely an interesting book. It's about a young woman who marries an older man, and kind of the house, the people that work in his home, how they treat her, react to her, how the husband treats and reacts to her. And she is really kind of haunted by the past, the presence of his first wife. So there's kind of just a lot of comparison going on, and you don't quite know if it's, you know, her kind of being insecure or if there's really something going on. So definitely unsettling, and definitely would fit that mood for sure. Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. You want to find love in spooky and weird circumstances. Okay, spooky and weird circumstances. I recently read Paladin's Grace by T. Kingfisher, and there is a bit of like a murder mystery sort of thing going on. And it does feel a little bit spooky and definitely weird in T. Kingfisher style, but it's really like cute, sweet romance in it. And then one that I finished recently that it's not necessarily spooky, it is kind of weird circumstances, but Love and Other Conspiracies. The author's name escapes me, but it is about someone who works at like kind of a BuzzFeed sort of like media company that produces like videos and content, and they're having to come up with an idea, and they come across someone who he runs like a conspiracy theorist podcast with like cryptids and aliens and the whole 9 yards. And he is just a really great speaker, and she's like, I got to get him to make this into a show. And so they kind of partner up and end up doing the show together. And it's just a really good romance, even though there is like kind of this silly premise, so to speak. But you are like kind of going on adventures of like looking for Mothman and Bigfoot and things like that. So it is kind of weird and maybe a little bit creepy at the same time, but it's definitely not leaning into like spooky territory or anything. It was just really good, and I think it'd be really good for fall just because it's dealing with like these legends and things like that. So definitely would recommend for love in spooky and weird circumstances. Okay, this is number 19. That was a long one. Okay. You want classic fantasy vibes because that is your kind of cozy. Dark castles, fireplaces, and powerful magic. Actually, what comes to mind is right here on my shelf. I've got the whole series, but I will show you this cool version. Eragon. This is the first book of the Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. This is like an illustrated version of the first book, but it is a 4-book series, but it is like classic fantasy with dragons and dragon rider, obviously, but it's YA, but it doesn't totally feel YA because you get like really great battles and everything, really great villain and will they, won't they sort of romance, classic like magic training. It just has all of the classic vibes that you would want, but it is just such a great series. And if you're wanting something that I think would carry you from like fall to winter, depending on how fast you read, having all 4 books to read. And there's also like a short novella with some like additional stories. There is also new books coming out. I don't think I can get to them right now, but Murtagh, it's like a continuing in that same world. So there is still more to come. So if you're wanting something that just has a lot to it, and yeah, just really great classic dragon fantasy feels, definitely would recommend. And I have copies of them, but I don't have it on me at the moment. It is in the other room. I think I would definitely recommend the Farseer trilogy with this as well. It's classic fantasy, but it is done in a way that I think nobody else is doing. Robin Hobb's writing is so incredible. The character studies are just incredible. I can't say enough about it. So it's definitely classic fantasy vibes with like medieval castles and royalty, some political intrigue and things like that. But it is really special and unique, especially with the magic. So yeah, dark castles, fireplaces, but the powerful magic is definitely a unique element, and the character studies is definitely a unique element. So definitely for your classic fantasy mood, if you're wanting that. So YA version, Inheritance Cycle, adult version, Farseer trilogy. All right, guys, this is our last one. This has been so much fun. I'm enjoying this. I hope you're enjoying it. All right, last prompt, if I can get it open. You want whimsical, weird, and atmospheric, a story to whisk you away to another world. Speaking of whimsical and atmospheric, I promise I didn't plan this. I promise I didn't. Night Circus is totally an atmospheric book. I think it's more atmosphere than really plot driven. But oh my gosh, it is incredible. The descriptions in this are just unreal. Of course, magic circus with kind of a magical competition. The plot is definitely ambiguous, but you have really interesting characters, kind of different POVs. But it is just like nothing else that I have read. So if you want something that's just really atmospheric, that is kind of spooky, definitely at times, but just has like these circus acts that are so whimsical and magical. The way they're described, it's like, how could someone possibly come up with that? They are just so like otherworldly. I definitely would recommend. And then another one that comes to mind would probably be Piranesi by Susanna Clark. That is a shorter book, but it is weird and wild. I don't really even want to describe it because it's kind of something that I think if you go into like more blindly, it definitely adds to the experience. But it is a man in kind of a strange place trying to figure out his surroundings. There's definitely a strange mystery. It's written in kind of like these journal entries, and it is this sort of mystery that slowly reveals itself. So whimsical, weird, atmospheric, definitely would recommend those two for that mood. All right, guys, so 20 prompts, I think that is a good number to round out at. So I hope that you enjoyed this and I fit whatever mood that you have been looking for. I will also be doing a few of these prompts on my shorts here on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. Some that I didn't get to today. So if you're wanting some more, definitely check out my other socials. But I really enjoyed this. I hope you guys had fun with it too. And I just like the drawing from the hat and the mood reader thing. I am totally a mood reader. So being able to kind of fit the different vibes that you want during this season, I think is a lot of fun. And definitely let me know with some kind of spooky or fall emoji that you made it to the end of the video. I really appreciate you watching and really appreciate you being here. Again, I hope you enjoyed this and I will see you guys soon. Bye.